The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. These guys can't go about like 3 seconds without saying a swear, so, listener discretion is advised.
Shut up, Wesley.
I got to the point in the show where I think Wesley's character got written off because I haven't seen him in a while.
I just like that a lot of people know that one line from TNG, and that's like one of the first couple of episodes. So shut up, Wesley. That's literally all I know about that show.
That's the most important thing you need to know.
Anytime Wesley shows up, say, shut up, Wesley.
Pretty much.
Which I was sad to learn that is not like a catchphrase or a recurring thing. It happens like once, and I was very disappointed.
No, my friends and I have come up with a catchphrase, and whenever we saw him on screen, it was other people. We imitate other people going, "Harm the boy."
Harm the boy.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind podcast network.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I'm doing all right. My name is JD. Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Kyle's here.
Hey.
And Matt's also here.
I am also here. Hello.
The whole gang is here. Hey kids, you want to feel old? Shrek is turning 20.
He's almost old enough to drink.
Shrek don't need your drinking laws.
I guess not. I guess they don't have normal laws in Fairy Tale Land or whatever.
It's
where
right.
the hell they live.
You come out of the womb with a fucking mead in your hand.
He does, because he says, "How about a pint?" And then he hits the thing, and then it makes a wrestling match.
And he does the thing.
I love that wrestling match
too. He does drink.
But yeah, we're talking about Shrek today, a movie that baffles me we haven't talked about yet, but, it's turning 20 years old, so, why not now?
Yeah. You guys never covered, any of the sequels or Puss in Boots or anything like that?
I've never seen Puss in Boots.
Oh, okay. I know because they had,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they had that movie, but they also had, the Netflix show. I wasn't sure if just any of that stuff ever potentially came up.
Nope.
Let's just say that I'm not DreamWorks' biggest fan.
I'm not either. I'm very selective with DreamWorks.
I feel like they've been doing a lot better nowadays. But this is
nowadays.
Yeah, but this is back. I think this was Shrek was DreamWorks' second CG movie. I think it was just after Ants, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the Ants people worked on Shrek, and I think it's 2 or 3 years difference. And you can tell, rewatching Shrek, honestly, I still think it looks pretty good. Of course, some of the textures here and there are, it is what it is. But as far as how it's animated and stylized and stuff, I think it still holds up pretty good. It's not like the first Toy Story or anything.
Yeah, have you seen the first Toy Story or Toy Story 2 in a while?
Toy Story 2 holds up a bit better than 1.
A bit better, but yeah, Toy Story 1, anything that is not one of the main toys is pretty rough.
Yeah.
Have you seen that dog? That dog's terrifying. Oh my god.
I would bring up the baby.
Also, the baby is also terrifying. Pretty much anything, like I said, anything that's not a toy is kind of terrifying in that movie.
So
far as Matt said he had a lot of fun facts for us, so I'm going to let Matt say his fun facts.
I did want to ask first. Did you guys? I imagine you did. Shrek was a phenomenon. Did you guys watch Shrek in the theater, or did you like the movie growing up, or?
Twice in theaters.
Holy shit!
That sounds like a fan to me.
I did not see this in theaters. I saw it on that really wide boxed VHS.
Oh.
remember when they're like, we need to fit all of these characters on this box, so we're going to put a little paper insert in the VHS box to make the box wider? Anyone else remember this? Just me? Am I having a fever dream? I don't know.
No, I don't really recall anything like that. I remember... there's the VHSs that had the clamshell packaging. I'm not sure if they were any bigger than the flip sleeve
this is
ones.
one of the the paper sleeves that they came in. The cardboard sleeve.
Sorry, we had DVDs back then.
Nah, man, I was still, that was 2000, 2001. We were in the transitional period of VHS to DVD.
Yeah, I mean that checks out. I think my family was like starting to get DVDs around that time too. I don't recall having the VHS for Shrek. Or
this was like basically once I got a PS2, that's when we kind of converted to DVD, and that was like maybe a year after it came out. So
right, I imagine that was
like
probably
2002-ish.
It's probably the case for a lot of people, much in the same way that I think a lot of the install base for the PlayStation 3 or the 4 was having a Blu-ray player, and now the PlayStation 5 being able to play like 4K Blu-rays.
Yeah, way to go, Sony.
Yeah, they'll be able to. Well, and also just winning the format wars too. That was another big victory for them.
That too, yeah. Anyone remember HD DVD?
For a little bit, I'm sure you could find Shrek on HD DVD.
Probably
somewhere. Maybe you could find it on a PSP VMD as well.
You could definitely get a UMD, a fucking Shrek.
It's probably the
most of the Shrek franchise is probably on the fucking PSP UMDs.
It's the way that was meant to be enjoyed.
No, wait. The best way to enjoy Shrek, Advance. The Game Boy Advance player. Yeah. You want to see fucking Shrek compressed down to like 240p.
It's just the way that it was meant to be, man.
Oh, we live in a glorious age, everybody.
But yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff. Just doing my usual dive on Wiki and IMDb and stuff about Shrek. I think this might be the movie I might have taken like the most notes on, actually.
I was about to say, I'll repeat, Matt is the only one who actually does like actual homework for this show.
Well, I figure people listening will, want to actually hear some facts about the production instead of, just three dudes just talking shit about stuff. Yeah, pretty much.
That is what this show was based on.
Right.
Talking out of asses.
All right. Well, anyway.
I
think I think a lot of people are aware of the fact that Shrek is based on a book. Book originally came out in 1990, and the rights for it were purchased in 1991 from Steven Spielberg, with the intention that he was going to do like a traditionally animated movie based on it. But around 1994, when DreamWorks was founded, he got convinced to bring the film to them, and he did. The development for the movie started in 1995 after DreamWorks was able to purchase the rights for the movie from Spielberg, and then the production on it started from 1995, basically. And so the movie came out in 2001. So 4.5 to 5 year development on the movie. It went through a few different stages as far as like how it was going to be presented. Like I mentioned, it was going to be traditionally animated at one time. From there, they dabbled with doing motion captured characters on top of real miniature environments, which well, I mean, it sounds pretty interesting to me, but I think for the time, it would be a lot better. It would be a lot more possible to do nowadays, for sure.
Nowadays, yes. When you're telling me motion capture in 95, I just think of the Donkey Kong TV show.
The what TV show?
The Donkey Kong Country TV show.
Right.
Because all that was mo-capped, and it's horrifying.
Right. But yeah, so
Dustin.
It went from motion capture on top of real miniatures to just being the CG animation that it is now.
Right.
Yeah, the movie is directed by two people. It was co-directed by Vicky Jensen, whose other notable credit as far as animation goes is she was a co-director on Shark Tale, which is another later DreamWorks movie. And then Andrew Adamson, who was a co-director on Shrek 2 and also directed the first two Chronicles of Narnia movies, which is pretty interesting to know that. I think a lot of people are aware of the fact that Mike Myers wasn't the original choice for Shrek. It was Chris Farley. So they recorded most of the movie at the time. And keep in mind that this is not the same movie that Shrek ended up becoming, because they did a complete script rewrite once Mike Myers came on, because he didn't want any of Farley's performance influencing his own. So they rewrote the entire movie.
They were both Saturday Night Live people.
Yeah.
Worked together, so he didn't want to tread on his water.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny because there's a lot of SNL names that are thrown around as far as the roles for this movie. Initially, when they were conceiving the movie, it was Bill Murray and Steve Martin were considered for the roles of Shrek and Donkey. At some point, Nicolas Cage was offered the role as well, but declined.
Yikes.
Damn.
Imagine the meme magic that would have been.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking now because Shrek and Nicolas Cage are both like separate memes that thrive separately. But if this would have Match in Heaven would have been made like when the movie came out, like who knows if there would have been a lot of I mean, there's a lot of crossover now, obviously, but I think it's funny though his reason for saying that he didn't want to be Shrek was because he didn't want to look like an ogre. That was like his big thing. Because I guess, obviously CG characters are sometimes styled after their actors and stuff, so...
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, Chris Farley, like, recorded basically the whole movie of what was Shrek at that time, before he, passed in 1997, and then they brought on... They considered getting a sound alike, but decided to just go for, the other SNL alum, Mike Myers. And then, of course, they did the new script and everything. The other thing, though, is that Mike Myers recorded the whole script and then ended up re-recording the entire movie because he wanted to do Shrek with a Scottish accent. Like, that wasn't originally... He didn't do it from the outset. He did the entire movie with Shrek as, like, probably in a similar, style of delivery and stuff, but, yeah, he did another pass on it after the fact, like with a Scottish accent, which is typical of like some of the characters that he's done before. Like I can think of So I Married an Axe Murderer. He plays a character in that movie. He plays multiple characters in that movie, like he tends to do, like in Austin Powers and stuff. But yeah, he plays a character in that movie that sounds exactly like Shrek and says some of the same stuff. Like there's something in Shrek where he's talking to Donkey and he says something like "You're on your way to a smacked bottom" or something like that. And I remember that from that movie, from Axe Murderer. But yeah, so they re-recorded the movie with a Scottish accent.
Interesting.
Apparently, Fiona, back when they were doing the Chris Farley version, was originally supposed to be played by Janine Garofalo. And and then when they ended up redoing the script and everything, they just canned her, I guess. And then as far as Lord Farquaad goes, apparently Alan Rickman was the initial casting choice, but he decided to do Harry Potter instead, which, was probably the wiser decision.
Yeah.
Imagine that there's a alternate dimension where all this did happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell because we don't really know much about that version of Shrek, like the Chris Farley version, other than I think it was like 5 years ago, the boards leaked for it, like with Farley's voice acting and stuff. But there's only like a few of those that have come out. We don't really know.
That's what I don't understand. We're nearing 20th anniversary, and they haven't like made a special Blu-ray with like shit like this.
Yeah,
like that's the kind of special features that people want to see. And if they had a storyboard made for basically all the movie, and he recorded all the lines for all the movie, pretty sure people want to see that.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
watch that.
Well, especially with somebody as beloved as Chris Farley. I mean, I think people forget like exactly how huge he was back in the day, like literally and figuratively. But yeah, on the same note as because I mentioned Alan Rickman, I did want to bring up just the box office success of this movie. Came out in 2001. It was the fourth highest grossing movie of that year. And when you hear what the other three that beat it out was, it makes complete sense. So,
like Titanic.
No, well, that's something kind of actually. So, Shrek made something like $484 million. After that, Monsters Inc. was in third place with $577 million. So, the divide between those two, DreamWorks, Disney, it's like about 100 mil. But then you get to second place, which was Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, which made $897 million. And then you get to fucking first place, which is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which made $1 billion.
Man, yeah.
It's just insane how much money was spent at the movies that year.
Yeah. Good times.
There's a well-known story that went around some years ago I felt like was definitely worth bringing up here again, just because it's still so funny. Because this movie was being worked on for like about 5 years, so the original version of the movie was being worked on at the same time that Prince of Egypt was being worked on for DreamWorks, and a lot of the people that worked on Prince of Egypt, if a lot of the boards and stuff they were turning in, or like whatever projects they were assigned to, weren't turning out very well, they got moved on to doing Shrek instead, in a practice that was referred to internally as being Shreked.
Yeah, because that happens a lot. It's whenever they feel that something is kind of a wash,
Yeah.
they just move the person on to like the shitty project.
Yeah, which...
And that's probably how they saw it, because I think I've read the same thing about Lion King. The Lion King was like their shitty project, and it ended up being like one of the best movies.
Yeah, because I feel like everyone wanted to work on, I think it was Pocahontas, right?
Oh, yes. Was that the other movie that came out around that time?
Yeah, they thought Pocahontas would be this big thing, and it turned out to be like Lion King was the big hit. And
it's funny. Yeah, and I mean, people still fondly remember, Prince of Egypt. Like, that movie's great. It has great music. It's a Bible story. Of course, there's a big audience for that. But I mean, I think Shrek, of course, ended up being the more successful movie. It has a whole franchise tied to it and everything. I mean,
and I kind of feel like, because this is at the time that DreamWorks was still doing 2D features, I feel like the success of Shrek might have been like their final like nail in the coffin, and be like, okay, we're flipping to strictly 3D.
Yeah, because I think Spirit was like the last traditionally animated one they did around that time. I think that came out the year before, or the year after. I can't remember.
I would have to look at the filmography of DreamWorks, but it was very close.
Yeah. There was the other thing in mention of like the being Shrek thing was apparently the other terminology was being sent to the gulag, which is kind of a ghoulish way to refer to it, but apparently that was a thing, so worth mentioning.
To answer your question, Shrek came out, and then Spirit and Sinbad came afterwards.
Oh, that's right, Sinbad.
Then it was Shrek 2, and then they went strictly 3D after that.
Yeah, but I know Spirit came out in the theaters, right? I don't think Sinbad did.
I thought it did.
You gotta remember, at this time, 3D movies were still novelty.
Mm-hmm.
So something 3D was probably not going to be seen as being as good as animated.
Because there would have been... How many animated movies, how many CG movies before Shrek? There would have been Toy Story 1, Bugs Life.
Just straight up all Pixar.
Well, Ants would have been, DreamWorks thing before that. So Toy Story 1, Bugs Life, Ants, and maybe Toy Story 2?
Yeah.
2000?
Then Monsters, Inc.
And Monsters, Inc., yeah. Well, that same year, so, I'm not counting that.
Because around that time, you would have stuff like Beast Wars, Reboot, all that stuff was still like the novelty.
Oof, yeah.
It wasn't commonplace.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Forget
about that one.
Yeah, but it's television and movies. Different ways to view that though. Like
Jimmy Neutron was the same year.
Yeah, so that was the other thing I want to bring up too. Is that the movie premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, and was the first movie to be screened there since Peter Pan in 1953, and it was actually the first animated movie since then as well to compete for the Palme d'Or, which is like the highest prize that can be awarded in that festival. So this movie at the 74th Oscars was up for Best Animated, and that's the very first Best Animated.
That was the first year they made that award.
Yeah, they made that one strictly in response to, I think it was Beauty and the Beast got nominated for Best Picture some years before that, and they decided to just make a whole different category for animated movies, I guess, because we already talked about this before. The Academy didn't give shit about animation, so they fucking just want to make their whole other category to shovel them off.
They gave us a category so we'd shut up.
Yeah. But it's funny because, we made a lot of mention, or I guess I'm the most vocal person about this, about how Disney and Pixar are usually the ones that take the award whenever they're nominated. But in the very first instance of the Best Animated Award, Monsters, Inc. is up for the award against Shrek and Jimmy Neutron, and fucking Shrek takes it over Monsters, Inc., which is hilarious to me.
Mm-hmm.
The other big thing was... Oh, actually, so a little minor thing before this big thing. Apparently, Shrek has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That was just something I found out right before recording.
Oh, yeah.
But, when you find out that the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like, all the stars have to be bought, like, they're not just given out. So, I guess DreamWorks probably just bought that star, but still.
Well, no, yeah, I think you have to pay dues for it.
Oh, is that a fact?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to like pay to have it like maintained.
Yeah, because remember, was it Trump's first year of presidency or whatever? People were fucking destroying a star.
Yeah.
And you still got to pay to fucking get the uptake and all that stuff.
Right.
I think it happened to multiple times.
Probably.
But yeah, so the biggest honor, I guess, is that in 2020, just last year, Shrek was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, making it the first non-Disney animated movie to show up there. And apparently Shrek is an important enough movie to be preserved there, which, you know, I mean, given all of this, I would agree.
I would firmly say Shrek is a cultural icon, for sure. Like, you can ask most random people on the street who Shrek is, and they can tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can agree. I don't know if his popularity now is based on just memes, and he's only known for memes.
And
meme culture prevails pretty strong, though, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of people in the modern era, like, at least grew up with, like, watching the first couple Shrek movies, being exposed to Shrek invading popular culture. So whether or not Shrek's relevancy has, like, maintained to today, I still think it, like, still sits in a lot of people's minds.
I think a lot of his relevancy is more ironic, though, in a sense.
Maybe.
I feel like it's weird. Like, of course, with a lot of things, like, you know, it starts out as being an ironic thing, but I think a lot of people have flipped on it and are now actually, like, appreciating it for just being, like, a very solid movie that it is. Like, of course, not everyone, but, you know, I've seen that take a lot, like, on, you know, social media and stuff.
Yeah, I remember around that time, Best Buy's, Circuit City, whatever, whenever they were testing out their big sound systems, they always played the dragon scene.
Right.
I mean,
that was something that they always played.
Yeah, it's a good way to sort of, like, you know, as far as the sound design and, like, the colors and everything, like, yeah, it's a good way to sort of test that sort of thing.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geeksploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at the Geekly Grind.
But yeah, no, that's just you know, like a ton of stuff. Just finding out about Shrek, like, is really interesting because, like Kyle mentioned, I mean, most people nowadays just mostly know Shrek from the memes and stuff. But I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people forget, like, just how successful it was. I mean, you know, it had 3 sequels, it had 1 spin-off. I think Shrek and Puss in Boots are supposed to be getting new movies soon. Even, like, you know, it's been like 10 years since either of them had a new movie. So
Shrek 5. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say, the whole thing that I'm saying, like, an ironic kind of way, is I remember around that time Shrek was pretty much on Minions level, where you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where people kind of got fucking tired of it.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't go to the ketchup aisle without getting fucking green ketchup.
Guy at the green easy squeeze, Kyle.
Did you guys ever get the fucking colored ketchup? Because I did.
No, my dad would not shell out for that.
I'm not a ketchup person, so that wasn't on my list. But
I
I'm just saying, like,
ketchup.
I think at that time people were a bit tired of it.
Yeah.
'Cause I think every movie that came out, it was the same. You go to Toys R Us, there's like a whole aisle dedicated to Shrek. You go to, you know, the food aisle, there's like just nothing but that. Like, that was DreamWorks' biggest fucking gamble, and it did work out for them.
Yeah. No, because I think it's one of those things where if Shrek wasn't the success that it was, DreamWorks would probably not be around. Like I think that was like their last.
I don't know if it would have like fizzled out. I just don't think it would be as prominent as it is.
Right, it would probably be like a lower level like production studio maybe, but
because I don't see Shark Tale fucking saving the company.
Absolutely
that was
not.
Like their second release after that, wasn't it?
I think it came soon after, yeah.
It was like, I think they did like Spirit and Sinbad, then they did Shrek 2, and then I think Shark Tales after that.
Okay.
I mean more their 3D stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But rewatching the movie, I've rewatched the movie like fairly recently, like I was trying to remember, like, because I of course remembered it pretty vividly, but I was trying to remember how exactly in what instance I was watching it, and I remembered that there's a YouTube channel called 3GI, and they did Shrek Retold, which is it's the entire movie of Shrek, but it's redone by like teams of like film crews and animators and stuff, and it's just like different scenes go to like different. It's like it's like one big collab basically. They've done the same thing for the Sonic OVA, and then I can't remember if they've done it for anybody else, but
well, I mean, I've seen all these kind of like YouTube collaborations where I've seen a lot of them where they'll remake an episode of a cartoon. Like I know they did one for the Freaky Fred episode of Courage,
right? And then there's like they've done it for like the Dover Boys.
Yeah, the Dover Boys one's really good.
Yeah. Well, not 3GI specifically, but it's just, it's a big thing on YouTube right now. And,
this trend has just been going around for the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, and even then, like, I remember back, way back when I was, like, a regular on Newgrounds. I mean, that was a really popular thing to do back then, too. I mean, like, not as far as, like, recreating, like, the whole episode by itself, but just more, like, coming together to make spoofs and satires on a specific thing. Like I remember, of course, early 2000s Newgrounds, like there was tons of like collabs based around just like the Matrix, like doing a bunch of stuff based on the Matrix, and then like
I sure remember those.
There's a bunch of stuff like based on just doing Nintendo stuff, like that sort of thing. So I mean, as far as internet culture's been around, it's always getting together to make collabs based on pre-existing things has always been a thing. Like,
But yeah, to be so bold as to recreate the entirety of the Shrek movie. I've not sat through the whole thing, but I've seen a bit of it. It's very ambitious.
Yeah, no, it's great too.
Those things are always borderline obnoxious to me, so I always miss that.
It's fair. Yeah. I mean, the humor is not like for everyone.
That's kind of why I admire the effort put into it, but yeah, that was kind of why I stopped watching the Shrek one. Like, I can deal with it, like the Dover Boys one, because it's like 7 minutes long. That's fine.
And plus, it's the same exact audio track, so it's the same exact length and everything too. As far as like the
right,
Shrek
but it's just like some of the animators can get a little like they're gonna make their animation as crazy as possible for their little segment, and just to watch that for 90 minutes can get a little exhausting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've already gotten through all like sort of production stuff, so I mean, we can actually just, I mean, I feel like we don't even need to talk about the movie per se, just because, it's like one of those things. I think everyone and their mother has watched Shrek. Like
we don't need to explain the plot of Shrek to you.
It's like a fairy tale story, but it's a weird, like semi-adult, like sort of like deconstruction, like, and it's specifically related to DreamWorks, having a rivalry with Disney, so of course they're taking pot shots, all these like
they let them
tales.
say a few swears.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I remember bringing it up. I forget what podcast. It was James and the Giant Peach. The whole Stinky Cheese Man thing, where it's like twisted fairy tales and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's just like at this point now, it's been done to death, where you're doing like a different take on a fairy tale. I think that's kind of where I have my reservations a little bit about the series in a sense.
Now, are we saying like when you say by now, by like when Shrek came out, or are you saying like modern day?
I would say both, because honestly, like, I've read stories where someone wrote a story where it's like a crime detective story based on Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's just stuff like that where everybody does their own spin on a fairy tale, and shit like that is just so fucking uninteresting to me.
Well, I think Shrek was the first time it really got to a broad, wide audience. But I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like, that kind of concept was not new even when Shrek was made.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think even if you've ever read the actual book for Shrek, I don't think it has anything to do with that.
No.
I really do think it was DreamWorks just taking a pot shot at Disney for 90 minutes.
Basically. I mean,
the bad guy looks like Michael Eisner.
Exactly. That was Kyle brought it up. Like Lord Farquaad is like based on Michael Eisner, and Farquaad is supposed to sound like fuckwad. Like,
Yeah.
and and basically the whole thing about wanting to, make where he lives is basically like Disneyland, and like how he wants to take over, the fairy tale land and just make like big, like expansions to the castle and stuff like that.
Yeah. And look, I'm not here to sit and defend Michael Eisner for his business practices and like fucking over Jeffrey Katzenberg, but
yeah.
Jeffrey Katzenberg fucked over Robin Williams, so
everyone's always been fucking over each other.
There are no good people
Hollywood.
in this story.
Everyone in Hollywood's filled with bastards.
Yeah, pretty much.
Except for Robin Williams.
Oh, I'm sure something will come out.
Hopefully not.
I mean, he did fool a woman into being her nanny. That was kind of fucked up.
Wait, like Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
God.
I mean, that was a documentary, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Pretty much.
No. Well,
that
I mean,
movie's so great.
I love that movie.
It's got Chuck Jones artwork.
God, it's been a while since I watched Mrs. Doubtfire. I gotta do that soon. I love that movie as a kid.
yeah.
I've seen animation cells pop up with that
Yeah?
stupid fucking cartoon.
So now, I guess now that we're 20 years removed from Shrek coming out, I guess we can say like how we feel about it nowadays and whether it's like we feel it still holds up or is like still relevant.
Well, what do you think?
So, I mean, for me, so I'll be quite frank. I did not rewatch Shrek for this review because I've watched the first Shrek more times than I care to count. I can more or less quote along with this movie, like most people.
Yeah.
I think the humor in Shrek still holds up. I still think it's funny. I think it's very well written. The weird pot shots at Disney, I guess as an animation nerd, I do find a little funny on some level. Not kind of less as much the more times I see it, but I think the first one, I do think it's relevant for what it did for animation back in the day. Kind of taking the animation crown away from Disney a little bit. Because, they were really the only game in town for a long time, and DreamWorks just came along and they're like, well, we're going to try to out Disney, but we're going to do it, our own way, which is, with a little offbeat.
Adult jokes and
Bluth
licensed
tried
music.
and failed.
Yeah.
I mean, they did try and fail, but they at least tried.
Well, no, I'm saying Bluth tried and failed on that one.
Oh, yeah, Bluth did try.
And that's another unfortunate thing, about like Fox Animation Studios and how they got fucked over with Anastasia and Titan AE.
Yeah.
I think Bluth was mostly Universal stuff, wasn't it? Like Land Before Time and...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but when he went off
Goes West.
but when he went off to try to do his own thing with Fox, like actually be underneath his own banner and stuff, that was the stuff that kind of didn't pan out.
But sorry to finish my thought. Yes, I think Shrek is important I think it's still a good movie. Whether or not it still has a place in our modern time, I'm a little questionable about that. Like, I do not want to see another Shrek movie. I do not want to see a Shrek 5. Because
What's happening?
Last I heard is it keeps getting pushed off. But I am of the mind, Shrek 1 is good, Shrek 2 is great, and it is completely off a cliff downhill from there. Like, 3 and 4 are awful.
Have you watched the fourth one?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Fourth one wasn't too bad.
3 is really bad. 4 is just like I don't feel the need to watch it again is where I'm at.
Which one is it where Shrek like becomes a human? Is that 3 or 4?
2.
That's 2.
Oh, is that 2?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, wow. Then
What were you thinking was 2?
Yeah, fucking, I don't know.
Because 2 is when they go visit Fiona's parents, and then the fairy godmother turns him human because she's like, thinks that's what she wants, but they learn to love the inner ogre or something.
The ogre inside.
And they don't have dental.
They don't even have dental. That's another one of those things.
That shit like that is gold.
Yeah, no, that's there's still like great
they don't
jokes
even have
in these
dental.
movies. Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, Kyle, I mean, do you think the original Shrek still holds up?
Yeah, I mean, literally every high school classroom in America has played it. So, I mean, I think it's all right. It's not the best movie of all time. It's an okay movie. And does it have relevancy today? I guess. It's living on in memes, so people must have a fucking like for it. But like I said, either ironic or not, people share Minions memes, and they're ironic.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they like Minions.
That's true.
My mom shares Minion memes, and I'm disappointed in her.
Wrap your head around that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned that, I think the movie still holds up pretty well. It's still very funny. Animation-wise, it still holds up pretty well. As far as cultural relevancy now, yeah, now that we've gone 10 years basically without a new Shrek, it'll be interesting to see, because obviously they're working on a 5th movie. It's going to happen. Like, I don't think that they're just going to cancel that. Like, it'll be interesting to see where they go with, like, this series, just because, yeah, it's been a whole decade. We're in a different... Well, I mean, we're in a different place in, Hollywood now as far as animation stuff goes, but in a lot of the same way, like, we're also still in certain, familiarity in that way, too. Yeah, I don't know. Like, DreamWorks has seen, like, a lot of success since their last Shrek movie, so... I don't know. It'll just be, I guess, just depending on who they get to work on the movie, as far as the writing and the directing and stuff goes, what topics they're going to choose to sort of, if the movie will take place like in the far off future or, that sort of thing. It'll be
Shrek 5, Shrek in space.
Yeah.
No, the 5th movie, Shrek gets a cell phone.
Shrek get iPad.
No, Shrek 5 is him dealing with his teenage children and him trying to adapt to.
That's where they fucking jumped the shark on that shit.
Yeah, when Shrek got kids.
That was straight up, we need to make money for toys. That was the only decision they made.
Yeah, because I wanted to see a movie about Shrek having a midlife crisis and wishing away the entirety of the franchise.
We watched Shrek 5. Shrek 5 is going to be just Shrek versus the machines.
You joke.
If it was just a soft reboot and not even Shrek 5 or something, I think I would be fine. If they would just literally pull a number 4 and just erase that shit, I would be fine with that.
Oh, kind of like in the same way, like they put out that new Terminator and like it erases like the 3rd and 4th movie and just takes place after the 2nd or something. Or like the newest Halloween movie just takes place after the 1st one and not like the other 9.
Yeah, if they did a soft reboot or some dumb shit like that, I would be fine with that.
Yeah.
Get rid of the... I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I could see if they made a Shrek movie now, it seems almost mandatory that they would shit on Frozen.
Yeah, probably.
And just dumb shit like that. That just feels like a given.
Okay, I'm gonna call it right now. There's gonna in Shrek 5, there will be a shot of a blonde lady singing on a mountain, singing something dramatic, and she is immediately caught by an avalanche, and that will be their Frozen joke.
Immediately what?
Just like attacked by an avalanche or something.
God. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Since they've gone a whole decade, and like there's all these other Disney movies and stuff that have come out since then, and of course, a lot of Disney stuff is still based on old fairy tales. Like they could definitely find ways to kind of fit in 10 years worth of pot shots. Like I feel even if this is just a way for them to just shit on Disney, I think Disney is still worth shitting on. Like even more so now than ever. Like if Shrek exists just solely just to do that, then fucking let them do it.
I don't know. In some subtle ways, Disney shits on itself.
Well, yeah. There's that's it.
Look at the new trilogy of Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
it writes itself.
I was more thinking of some of the jokes they make in the animated movies, but yes.
Yeah. God, that'll be another big thing too. That'll be like, I'm sure there'll be something where the sort of in-universe, like Disney sort of equivalent, like they'll find some way to inject space knights and superheroes into the Shrek world. Like,
I'm telling you, Shrek in space.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys seen the whole thing with the new trilogy? I've been seeing a news article running around. Well, Rey might be related to Luke Skywalker. That she might be related to Palpatine. So did the two fuck or what? Like, why does all this extra information exist outside the movie? Like, if you need that, then maybe the movies weren't that great.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I haven't watched any of the fucking movies, and I really don't give a shit about Star Wars.
Right. Even if for somebody that has watched, the movies but doesn't take place in like the fan culture for Star Wars, it's still it is a bit exhausting just to listen to. But I'm kind of that way about the MCU, so I get it. Like having all that extra, yeah. But the thing with the MCU, at least its benefit is that they have years of comic books to look back on. So like if there's something that you don't quite understand from adaptation, there is source material to pick that up from. Star Wars is all fucking flying from the seat of their pants and just thinking like, fucking put that there. Does this work? Like, oh, try like.
Star Wars is 90% fan fiction from the 90s that they didn't even reuse.
Yeah, and Star Wars hates its fans. Like it simultaneously hates and loves its fans. It's so bizarre. Like,
yeah.
But Shrek is love, and Shrek is life. So,
damn it! I wanted to make that joke. Oh well. Well, boys, do we have anything else we want to say on Shrek before we close the book on this chapter?
Nah, I think I'm all Shrek'd out. I will say this. I've watched on a whim one day. Like I watched there's a recording of the Shrek musical on Netflix, like the live action one.
Oh boy!
And I remember it being pretty decent. Like if you like musicals, like I know neither of you two would enjoy it.
Well, here's the thing that I think is fucking wild. It doesn't really have much to do with the musical, but the Universal theme park ride is basically like a fucking sequel to the movie.
Oh yeah, Shrek 4D.
I feel like a lot of people haven't seen it or know about it, which is interesting because that was kind of what I wanted with the second movie.
Yeah.
Shrek 4D?
Yeah, it's at Universal Studios. It's like Universal Studios also well known for, they did something like that for Terminator as well, to bring that back up. They did like a Terminator 2.5, I guess, is what it would be. Yeah. There was just like there's a big thing there. Oh no, and they did the same thing with Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Like fucking that was Universal's whole thing for a while, was just like making these like weird pseudo sequels to like their properties and stuff. Like super bizarre genre, but like,
Yeah.
Shrek 4D, I think they have it on a Halloween thing. like it's packaged on a Halloween DVD, and
Right.
it's like it's just called The Ghost of Farquaad or something.
Right, because I guess that makes sense thematically to have it on there.
Weird.
And yeah, it's just like Lord Farquaad comes back as a ghost and wants revenge. It's like it's what I wanted from the second movie. Not saying the second movie isn't bad, but
It's what you would have expected it to be.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to expand your knowledge of Shrek lore, don't forget to not only check out the sequels and the spin-offs, but also the TV series for the spin-offs and all the separate shorts and TV specials they've made, because there's like 10 years worth of that. Shrek the Halls is the
The Shrek Legacy.
yes, the Shreklecy, as it were.
I don't know. We'll figure out a Shrek pun.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. Alright, homies. Well, I think, like Mount said, I think we're a bit Shrek'd out here, so I think we're going to bounce, but appreciate everyone listening. Everyone out there, stay safe. We'll catch you next time.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.